Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Outside, the Art and Science of Watch Collection. Today we're going to take a look at James' collection, and it's extensive and it's really good. And I try to follow James. He gave me some directions and the orders and so forth. I try to follow it, but sometimes things got out of whack a little because I saw something. I thought, well, I think I'll put this over here and talk about it separately. So forgive me, James. All right, the first four are all under. James got them all for under 3,000 pounds, and the they're really nice watches. I don't think they were under 3,000 pounds when they went up for sale, but he found some good buys on these. The first one is a Dornbluth, and it's pronounced differently. It'd be Dornbluth und Sonde, and 99.2. That's the reference number on it. Nice, clean watch. The Dornbluth and Son are a couple of German watchmakers, and their story is very interesting. But we got a lot here to move on. The next one is Bulgari Okto Ultra Nero. This watch is one I've come to like more and more. It's very much influenced by Gerard. He used to work at Bulgari, and he designed some of their watches, not this one, but his influence is clear. At the bottom down there is one of my favorite pilot watches, a Zenith Type 20 Extra Special. I love that name with that great big old winder on it. The big winders are from, when pilots in the old days with the wind in their face and those big gloves on, they needed a big dial like this. The Omega Railmaster Coaxial Master Chronometer. This is one I like a lot. Railmasters are ones that you don't hear much about. You hear Speedmasters, Seamasters, but not a lot about Railmasters. And they're cool watches. I really like them. Okay, this next group of watches, now these are moving into the higher horology, and they're great selections. First of all, there's a Chopard Iwc Tech Twist. That is an unusual watch. I've never seen it before. James found this, and the more I look at it, what a watch! And it's a very interesting watch, and I like it a lot. I like the fonts and the colors and everything about it. It's a neat watch. Next to it is Parmigiani Fleurier Toric Chronograph. This would be the kind of chronograph that I would get. I like, first of all, I like Parmigiani Fleurier a lot, and I like the Toric design. Toric was sort of one of their older ones that it's been replaced, but it's really a very, very nice. I think it's in white gold too. Great one. Now at the bottom left is the Parmigiani Fleurier Persian. I had a hard time warming up to the Persian, to be honest with you, primarily because they had a solid back. They weren't very popular. But the thing of it is that the prices have come down, and the more I see it, the more I say, this isn't bad. Not a terrible one, and it's not the end of the world because it doesn't have a exhibition window in the back. Now, to the right is a Chopard Iwc 1937 Classic. Beautiful watch, great choice, and it's with the LUC version. They have a in-house Chopard movement. Really nice watch. Now, this next group of watches has some really great pieces to it, in that they're all. And I'll even throw in Breitling. I have an issue with Breitling, but that's neither here nor there. Gerard Perrigo World Timer WW.T. I'm always looking for a world timer. This is one I like a lot. I'd rather have a white background because there's a lot of information, and sometimes it's easy for me to see black on white than white on black. But that one is, I like the color scheme. I don't know why, but I do. Now, the Vacheron Constantin overseas. Now, this is one from the second version of the overseas. I had the first version, and in 2016, the third version came out. This version, though, one thing about it, I cut it down so you could see more of the dial, but the bracelet on this one is much better than the one on the first one. The one on the first one always popped open. And I got used to it. I wore it so much it would pop open. It was almost an automatic thing. I just tap it and it would close right up, and it was fine until the next time it decided to pop open and pop. But this one doesn't pop open, and it's a classic looking luxury sports watch. Love that watch. Blanc Pawn 50 Fathoms, flyback chronograph. This is of the sort of diver type of things, luxury divers, that primarily for desk divers. This one's a very interesting one, and on top of it, it's a chronograph. A flyback chronograph. So this is another, neat watch. Now, as I said, I'm always grumbling about Breitling because they're not exactly forthcoming about some of their movements. This one, though, is sort of cool. It's called the Breitling Spirit, reference 2212, but usually the nickname for it is a surfboard. And I think they call it that for two reasons. First of all, you can see the dark shape behind the two subdials that forms into a surfboard look, and then the way it's cut vertically has not as much as a surfboard, but just at a glance, it's got a surfboard look. So, as an old surf bum myself, it's a neat. I like it a lot. Okay, moving right along. All right, now this is something I really like. There are 3 universal Genève pole routers. There's up in the upper left is the pole router date. To the right is the pole router jet. Below that is another pole router jet. And then over to the left is a Prim Diplomat. The Prim Diplomat is a great dress watch. It's very unusual watch, and I like it a lot. But let me tell you about the pole router, why they call it pole router. I brought my this is my globe that I have, and the pole routers were ones from the United States to Europe, and instead of flying around this way, it was quicker to go over the poles, and so they call it the pole router. So in case you didn't know that, you do now. And it also gives me a chance to play with my globe. Stay. Okay, so James has 3 of them. And it's one of those watches that I've always liked. They're maybe it's because of the name, and I know what they do, and I used to fly, and like, oh boy, miss flying. This is a great watch for that. They're just nice watches for a collection, and I like them. Not much more I can say about it than that, but they're special watches. Now, this next group of watches, you get into some interesting ones. First of all, the Omega Speedmaster, it's called the Chronostop Jumbo. And you can see over at 10 o'clock, it's got an extra crown over there, and it has a pusher up at 2 o'clock, and then another crown down at 4 o'clock. And it's got that, I don't know what you'd call it exactly, the 70s type of style to it. And it's a cool watch. Now, this is not a coaxial, so it's one of the older ones, but still it's a cool watch. Now, next to it is a Breitling nav timer, model 8808. A lot going on that watch, a whole lot. Uh, I don't know whether one would use all that information except under certain special circumstances. And I guess if you knew how to do it and all of the different parts there, but as a chronograph, and I don't know what it's used for navigation, but sounds interesting. Much more to my taste is a Longines Heritage 1945. Nice clean watch, got the small seconds down at 6 o'clock, and it has sort of like a not velvet, but silky kind of background on the dial. That's a cool watch too. The Eberhard Extra Fort chronograph. I don't know what a fort is from. I mean, it's, if you like chronographs, that's a solid one. It's got the date window down at 6 o'clock, and then at 9 and 3, it has its subdials for the different chronograph movements. The one on the right above it on the nav timer, you've got the same thing, except you have an additional, rather than center seconds, you have them down at 6 o'clock. This next group is an interesting one. The Heuer Autovia chronograph. Autovia, I think that was for automobiles and pilots both. The Autovia name came from. And it's a watch that it was one of those, it's not going to win any awards for a movement, but it's a sort of a cool watch. I mean, it's just something about it I've always liked. You know, there's some models, you know, that there's not much of a movement in them, and but you just like them. This is one of them. Below it, directly below it, is a Monaco. It's another watch I like from Heuer, from Tag Heuer. And this is the Monaco reference CAW 211B. And again, it's a chronograph. And notice that you have the winding crown on the left side rather than at 9 o'clock rather than at 3 o'clock. And then you have your 2 and 4 o'clock pushers on that one. It's an interesting one. The Iwc Engineer. This was the thing about it. Iwc is another one of those ones I grumble about not giving us all of the information about their movement. This one, though, I like. The Engineer was designed by Gerard Genta, and it's one of those designs. And to me, with an Iwc, you either need one of their movements or you need something special about it, and this one I think is something special about it, and I like it. The Chronometer Dandy I just like. I mean, it's got an ETA movement. It's not going to win a movement award, but it's a cool watch. A Chronometer there's a certain classiness to it. It's a French watch. I like French watches. And this one I really like a lot. It's James said it was his only cushion designed case. So that's a very, very cool watch. Okay, these next two are probably my favorite two in the whole collection. One is the H. Moser et Compagnie Mayu. It was later on they renamed it to Endeavor Small Seconds. I have the similar watch to that in the color and everything else, except instead of small seconds, it's center seconds. And it's a 7-day, and I think the movement in this one is a 3-day. This is white gold. Man, I tell you, it's so great to have one of these watches. All right. Moser is one that if you can find them that you can afford, I think they're worth having, very much so. They've come out with the newer lines of them. The price is less, but the designs are just as good, in some respects more exciting, I think. Now, next to it is a Parmigiani Fluie Ionica. I mentioned before the other one was called a Toric. The Toric and the Ionica are older Parmigiani models, and both of which I really like. There have been times that I passed up on an Ionica I could kick myself for because it was a fairly decent price. They're wonderful watches. They have the what is it? Caliber. It's the 8-day. It's the 8-day shaped movement. We'll take a look at it in a second. But this is a. I mean, these are two just really fantastic watches. It's solid gold, 18 karat. That is rose or yellow gold. Beautiful watch. I love those watches. Now, this next one is one that I don't see too often, and I really like it. It's a Lecoultre Master Control 8-day. Like the Hebdomadaire, this one is also 8-day. It has a power reserve indicator, hand wound, 8-day. It has at 7 o'clock, there's a date window on it, which I think is sort of cool. And you have the day and night indicator up at 3 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock. You have the day and night indicator. And then down between 4 and 5, you have the second hand. This watch is really a cool watch. 42 millimeter stainless steel dial, stainless steel, and then with a case, not a dial. Caliber 877 movement. The 877 was used with another one of their really top watches that Lecoultre has. Okay, now the final watch is a new one that James got. He sent it to me right before I started to work it out. And this is the Parmigiani Hebdomadaire movement, the same movement that was in the Toric we just looked at. It's a great 8-day movement. As you can see from it, it's a shape movement. It's not a little round movement. I have a Kalpa. Oh, by the way, too, it's Kalpa Hebdomadaire. Okay, if I have a hard time saying that right. I hope I did. Anyway, this is such a well-chosen and so complete and so diverse. This is exactly the kind of collection that I think just about any collector will find things in this kind of collection that two things: one, they like, and two, they can afford. And I think that's really the essence of watch collection. James collects watches more so, but in a similar way that I do. I try to find a watch I really like. I don't care what anybody else thinks about it. If I like it, I'll get it. And so I end up with some different kinds of watches. And I think James has done the same thing, except his choices, I think, are really, really very good ones too. And I think it's almost like a guide for watch collection. In terms of recommending, I'll just pretty much feedback what James and I both like the gondolas. And if one comes along, it's sort of like you're sitting by a river and you see little logs and things go by, and finally you see one that's close to shore and just right for you. Grab it. And that's the way I feel about a gondola. It'll come, but there's no rush for it right now. But any recommendation that you may have, I think it'd be fun to look at when you're looking at one this big. Anyway, that's it for today, and I want to thank James for all the work he did to put it together, and I hope I didn't get it too tangled up, but I rearranged certain things just because I liked him so much. Okay, everybody be safe, take care, and until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection And this is an invitation to subscribe if you'd like.